When the world is just too much, turn it off and turn on positive, encouraging K-Love.
I'm gonna praise.
World off. K-Love on.
K-Love is sunshine for my soul.
I love K-Love.
Listen now on your radio, online, or on the free K-Love app.
K-Love makes me feel so good.
Positive, encouraging K-Love.
Let's talk a little bit about Hosea, because Hosea is a tricky prophet, that one. Hosea is our first prophet of either any list you go by, the Septuagint list or the Masoretic text list. He's the first, and he starts off with a bang. The short story on Hosea is that he is a minor prophet, of course, but God basically tells him to marry a harlot, and it goes downhill from there.
Yeah. And that's the high point.
Yeah. And the whole story is basically that Israel is the harlot. And besides that metaphor or analogy that they're making between Israel and the harlot, they really run down Hosea's wife Gomer and their children. So I'm thinking that that's where your disagreement with Hosea comes from.
And the names of his children. It's something like the Hebrew words translate as something like "I hate you" and "you bastard," or something like that. And I don't like the imagery. Okay, I can see God is trying to make a point, because God is a jealous God, about Israel's harlotry, but I don't like the way it's done. I don't like the inherent misogyny in it. I actually looked up the other day, how many times are prostitutes referred to in the Old Testament? It's about 100 times. Doesn't that seem a lot for a holy book? A little bit of preoccupation going on here? I just don't like that aspect of it. So, I just don't like Hosea.
It's really interesting because if you're coming into reading the book blind and you don't have any context for it, it sure does seem from that first section that it's not metaphorical.
No.
And then you read on and you can see, okay, yeah, that's probably a metaphor, but they never do really spell out that it is a metaphor, that Gomer and that these names that they give for the kids are metaphorical. I could see putting Hosea towards the bottom just for that point alone, that they never really do. It's never spelled out that, okay, that this is what we were doing. You kind of have to read between the lines to backdate that first whole initial couple, at least a chapter, is just an analogy for Israel.
But you have to admit, if you were the least literally minded about reading the Bible, you'd take it literally, wouldn't you?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's the bottom four covered, isn't it?
So I did a little consolidation here of our bottom four in no particular order. Hosea, well, I guess we could say pretty safely our two individual bottom fours are Obadiah and Hosea.
Yeah.
And then we both agree Haggai and Zechariah. Not terrible, just not great.
Yeah. And I'm willing to put Obadiah in the very bottom four, because I got him in number 8 at the minute. So
our consolidated bottom four, starting at 12, Hosea with a close Obadiah, Zechariah, Haggai, and Zechariah and Haggai probably interchangeable at this point.
Okay, that's cool. That's our bottom four.
So it's. I think it's probably worth saying. So we really used that rubric, I guess you might call it, of our subjective categories that we chose. But there's a whole other element if you're reading these 12 minor prophets, is if you can read them in their original Greek, well, not their original Greek, their Septuagint Greek or their Hebrew, we get a whole different view on them, in which Garry and I can't speak to. But so we're really just basing them entirely on our reading from English translations. And I personally am not grading them very much on their narrative, like their flow or their poetic nature, which doesn't really come across in English very well, I don't think. I think they really do come across as more either apocalyptic or just a narrative. I don't pick up a poetry element to them. Did you?
No, not at all, actually. There's a guy called Rabbi Fox who spent the past 20 years translating the Tanakh, the Old Testament, into English. But he's famous for keeping the original Hebrew rhythms, the wordplay, the allusions, and I really love his translations. And apparently they've been really quite highly praised because people say, well, we didn't think it was possible that you could, make English keep the literary nature of the Hebrew. Unfortunately, he hasn't done the 12 minor prophets and probably won't before he dies. So I have read English translations by someone who is specifically striving to recreate the Hebrew. And it does come across as totally different to other English translations I've read. Anything from the King James to the New Revised Standard Version. So I can appreciate that in Hebrew they might be entirely different literary compositions.
I would have to think, because you really, when you read these 12 prophets, even as they're, and really a lot of the Old Testament in general, when you read them in translation, it feels like as you're reading them that there's a lot of context that you're missing. And I know that from listening to your podcast that you probably know infinitely more about the context than I do. So I think that, and there's probably people who know infinitely more than we do as well. So, but it sure feels that when you're reading them, you need another book open explaining what you're reading.
Yes. And actually, that's why I use the Jewish Study Bible for the Old Testament. It has incredibly elaborate notes, and it is a joy to use. I just thought I'd get a plug-in for them.
I think there's probably another aspect of the Hebrew in the Hebrew version is that the Hebrew language is so different, and that the word play that they can do that would make a lot of sense with them would not translate through to Greek, let alone Latin, and then let alone English, of how many different translations that has to come through to us.
Yeah. Actually, there's a good example of that in one of the Gospels. At the end of his life, Jesus is entering Jerusalem, and it says he entered on a colt and a foal, or something like that. He uses two separate words. Now, that's a quote from some prophet, and apparently Hebrew often uses duplicates to express a thought in a poetic sense. And the New Testament writer misinterpreted that Hebrew poetic duplication as literally saying he rode in on two separate animals. So the Hebrew was being misinterpreted or misunderstood even back then, 2,000 years ago.
Because those gospel writers, as far as I know, at least Matthew, Luke, and John were Greek speakers, and maybe they were bilingual, but you just never. And Mark, I think there's some question because they say that now we're going off on a tangent here, but they say that Mark's Greek was rough Greek. It was not a polished academic Greek that he wrote in, which I can't verify that.
Yeah. You can sort of see it in Mark's translations, actually. If you read Mark, I don't just moderately closely, he often starts a sentence with "and then Jesus went off to do this, and then the disciples went here," and he uses the word "immediately" a lot. And once that's brought to your attention, you go, yeah. He starts every second sentence with the word "and," and yes, apparently his Greek is fairly choppy. I mean, as far as I know, there there is minimal evidence that the actual scribes, whoever they were who wrote these documents, were coming from Aramaic or Hebrew. Like there's a really big lack of phraseology which could have been taken from Hebrew and turned into Greek by a native Aramaic or Hebrew speaker, and which I find really odd. I mean, if these guys were really at least bilingual or fluent in Greek, that happened really quickly. I mean, from a group which started off as a bunch of lower class Jewish Aramaic speakers, and then in 40, 50 years, suddenly documents are being written by fluent Greek speakers. I find that one of the great mysteries of the New Testament. But it's a pure sidebar.
Yeah, that's one we might have to visit in future, because that's really like the automatic thing I think of is like somebody such as the letters of James written. What is their Greek quality? And that might be an interesting thing to discuss further. What's the quality of them in Greek? Is that a rough Greek? I don't know. But anyways, well, let's put an end to that sidebar.
When the world is just too much, turn it off and turn on positive, encouraging K-Love.
I'm gonna praise.
World
I
off.
praise the
K-Love on.
K-Love is sunshine for my soul.
I love K-Love.
Listen now on your radio, online, or on the free K-Love app.
K-Love makes me feel so good.
Positive, encouraging K-Love.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions for free. Call now and find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell everyone listening who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me here. It's always nice to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. 800-910-7500. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now. 800-910-7500.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center may not be available in all states, not available in California.